Y'all ready to go?
We're ready.
All right.
Yes.
Appreciate y'all's patience with me getting here, being a little tardy this morning because I can't read my phone. So we had sent you in advance, and I wish we could have gotten them to you a little earlier. We're getting better at this. Hope y'all had a little bit of time. You know, maybe me being late, you got a chance to visit about it a little bit. Appreciate your interaction with our team at the last meeting. And I'm really optimistic that from our internal discussions and putting things together, that not only are we poised to go ahead with what we sent you, but to make more progress on other things today. So I think this is kind of going to be a work day back and forth. We're hoping to see any other new things that you may have for us. So let me just go through this. I think most of it was probably self-explanatory. Definitions, which we have agreed just to hold, not to be final until the end. Purpose of agreement, we've made just one minor adjustment there, referring to parties in response to yours. Good faith negotiation, we deleted the 10-day time period. And in the evergreen clause, we're just putting an end date on there. We're both thinking about a 4 or 5 year contract. So we really haven't made a final decision. We're ready to talk to you about that. Most of the evergreen clauses that I work with are typically a year or two. I'm thinking with a long-term contract like this, we probably ought to just have 1 year on an evergreen, but we'll visit with you about that.
I think the only thing in section 2, and I guess maybe I didn't write it appropriately, but the idea behind the 10 business days wasn't to like start negotiating in 10 business days. It was, let's just meet within a certain time frame to schedule when we're going to start. Because I think if there's no time frame in there, it's kind of left open for whatever. But that was the intent behind it, was maybe, you know, our lead can get with their lead just to meet and be like, hey, we're thinking whatever,
Okay.
May, June, something like that, just so we have that initial meeting to figure out when we're going to start,
All right.
instead of just leaving it like open-ended.
Yeah, that's helpful. I appreciate that feedback. You know, our concern or reaction to that would be, you know, a lot of times, even though the notice, everybody knows when the notice has got to come in, you know, and so the notice is going to come in, and both sides ought to be able to anticipate it a little. But, you know, people are busy. It's inherently the time of year that school's getting out and everybody's going on vacations and whatever. But that's a good point, you know, that we don't necessarily need to start bargaining in 10 days, but we ought to get together and begin the process within 10 days or 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, 10 days is way too short to be like, hey, here's your notice. We need to start in 10 days. It was more of within 10 days or 2 weeks, let's just figure out when we're going to start.
Yep, we hear you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Recognition, we just did a statutory correction.
Can we go back, sorry.
You
Can we
bet.
go back to, can we go back to the evergreen clause? Did y'all have thoughts on, the one you all had proposed was kind of open-ended? We're proposing, although we haven't set a time, just having a stop date on the evergreen clause. Do y'all have anything on that?
I'm good with, I think like Raphael was mentioning, like a, whatever, certain months, however long we go about, but I think that's
Okay.
probably going to be contingent on the length of the contract
Right.
kind of thing. So I don't know if, it's not going to be long, like you said. We're open to figuring that out, but I think a lot of it depends on like the broad
Right.
Sure.
picture of the contract.
Sure.
Agreed.
So,
Okay, thank you.
So now you're looking at maybe a year.
I'm thinking
Or
if
two.
we do a 4 or 5 year, that a year evergreen should be fine. Because we just want both sides to come to the table and say, you know, we got a fairly short time to get this done. We got enough time to get it done without things changing. I'm not too worried about us solving that problem because, you know, to the extent that we're seeking statutory changes on things like hiring or promotions or whatever, we have a mutual interest in the contract not expiring. You know, because we don't want to have to go back to 143 standards and then finally get a new contract and then shift back to whatever that is. So that all of that chaos is not a good thing.
yeah, and I think just 'Cause, I mean, you mentioned 4 or 5. 5's probably going to be out of the comfort level of the members. You know, that we're kind of looking at 3 or 4. But again, I think it's dependent on the whole scope. I
Sure.
mean, if I think we all agree and everything is great, you know, maybe 5 isn't out of the question, but I
Right.
think our guys are leaning more towards 3 or 4, but we're obviously kind of flexible.
Appreciate the candor on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, part of the deal here is that we are, we're working hard on some of the issues that you've got. We've all known before this deal came together, when you went to the voters, that your staffing proposal was going to be kind of the cornerstone of your labor agreement.
Right,
And it's going to take a while to get there to make it affordable.
right.
And, you know, this, you know, collective bargaining has come in the midst of that process. And of course, nobody can fully predict the economy, you know, in time. And so the city can either be really conservative on a shorter contract, you know, and maybe accomplish less, or maybe, you know, make a commitment to accomplish more on a longer term basis.
Right.
Anyway, those are the dynamics that your members just kind of
Yeah.
need to hear from us.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, that's kind of what I was getting at, was if it's all good, everything works, like big picture kind of, I think, you know, longer would be
Good.
more, be able to stomach that a little easier.
All right. Thank you, sir. Recognition, I don't think that's any remarkable. No strikes and no lockouts. I don't think we made any changes there. What we did on the non-discrimination article, we just kind of combined yours with our earlier draft. I think we're accomplishing the same thing with the terms, so if y'all would just study that a little bit and see if there's anything in there that's problematic for you. We get to management rights and maintenance of standards, and I always talk about them together. What we've done here, and let me just, you know, I'm not trying to give any speeches to any of y'all, but fundamentally in the collective bargaining labor environment, there's this balance between reserved management rights and the doctrine of past practices under maintenance of standards. So we've used the language here to try to capture that balance appropriately. The city's not trying to tilt that balance one way or the other. You know, I've always told my city and county clients that what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make sure that the chief can do the policy things that we don't have to bargain to begin with, which are the things that have to do with running the department. Texas law is not especially clear on that point. There's been very little litigation about it. The primary cases came out of Corpus Christi. They had to do with things like grooming standards and stuff like that. But the standard that's articulated in those cases is if it is predominantly in the nature of benefits to the employees, then it's something you have to bargain. If it's predominantly in the nature of the way the mission is accomplished and the services are delivered to the public, then it's the chief's prerogative. And so we're just not trying to tilt the balance one way or the other. The other thing that we'll be doing is we'll be working with the chief and identifying any policies in particular that we may be intending to change so that we can make you aware of that before the bargaining cycle is over. That way you have your option to talk about whether or not that's something that you want to bargain over or feel like we should. And then the last piece of that puzzle is that if there's policies that we want to specifically reserve the prerogative to modify those and take them outside the contract, that we'll advise you of those as well. So that's the way this goes. All of the language changes in here are really to be consistent with that. You'll see in section 3 down here, the illustration of certain retained management rights of the city doesn't exclude or invalidate any other rights that are generally inherent in management. That was my reference to that Corpus Christi cases, just so you know where we're coming from. I know Joe's totally familiar with that.
It's always Corpus.
Yeah.
Not always. We have other frequent flyers, right, Lowell?
Indeed. I'm not even familiar with, now, that case was a long time ago. I'm not even familiar with anybody having a fight over that recently, so. And then you see the amending written policies provision that we put in there. We shift into wages, and I wanted to tell you that we appreciate what you have done in going through the executive orders and capturing in your proposal. We are accepting your wages article as written, subject to the language that we will be providing to you on what I refer to as the safety valve clauses, the city's funding capability clauses. And we're looking at several options. I think I mentioned once before, Austin has a provision in their contract that we have just done on the police side. That's one of the ones that we are looking at, but there are 2 or 3 other options on that. The inherent challenge that the city has in making commitments in a contract, historically, as you know, the way things have worked is that every year in the budget cycle, y'all have had informal communications during that budget process to influence how that works and how it affects your membership and the fire department. Sometimes on the same page with the chief's, objectives, and sometimes, on behalf of your members on things. And then the city decides priority-wise and affordability-wise and revenue-wise whether or not they can do those on a single budget basis. Now we're in a different role, and we're deciding on a long-term basis, are we sure that we can afford to pay for something that costs more money in year 3? And everybody hopes that the trend line on the budget and the revenues on the property tax and the sales tax side stay the same. That's all we're doing on our side of the table. And I'm hoping that in your communication, education with your members, that they understand that. It's a new challenge for the city. Things that probably would have happened, like the staffing dynamics, if things don't go south from the economy standpoint. We're still continuing to have the same intentions, and in many respects, we're on the same page. But now we're having to revisit whether we can commit to do it, whether or not we have the money. So,
Yeah, and we had discussions with our membership about this and the wages and stuff, so that they fully understand that, we're not trying to drain the city or put anybody in a difficult spot, right? We're all in it together kind of thing, so. I think that's why we like, the idea of this as opposed to committing to like a certain percentage every year, because who knows, market fluctuates one way or the other.
Correct.
I think over the years, how we've come to this executive order and this proposal, I think is a good way that's fair for everybody, right? Market's doing good, we do good, market doesn't do good, we don't do good. I mean, it's a fair process I think everybody should be able to live with, but.
Lowell, on that language, does that include some like sitting back down and agreeing to defer or adjust?
The Austin language, I'm just doing this by
Yeah,
memory.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, I'm just doing it by memory. The Austin language basically allows the finance director to certify to the city council a shortfall in revenues against the projections from the 5-year financial plan. And then the city council can then determine whether or not to make a proportionate reduction in any contract benefit in order to afford it in that fiscal cycle. That way, in the political process, obviously you can go to the city council and say, you can do this, but you don't need to do it and you shouldn't do it. Okay, and so that was the way we struck that balance in Austin.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is still in the Denton firefighter contract, but I'm pretty sure that the one we originally did there when Liz Provencio and I did the Denton contract a long time ago, it had a press pause position, so that if they had a similar deal to what happened in Austin.
We actually have a Denton guy here.
Okay, I think it's still in there that the city council can delay the implementation of one of the pay increments if they have a revenue shortfall. And so those are 2 of the key provisions that we're looking at putting in here. And that kind of segues, Joe, into Article 11, where we're asking y'all for a give back on productive time as to sick leave. That is specifically a part of our analysis of our ability to afford the staffing plan going forward. So what we're trying to do is to get on the same page in implementing the staffing plan that the chief's been working toward for some time. And this gives us a little bit more flexibility. obviously, we're asking for your members to have a little bit more skin in the game in terms of taking sick leave out of productive time, because normally under FLSA, it wouldn't be payable, and it's my understanding that y'all have been paid for that up until this point in time. Probationary period, I think that we're on the same page there. We didn't make any changes in this one, or did we
We
increase it?
changed it from 90 to 120.
90 to
Yeah.
120, I
So-
remember that.
I'd actually had a discussion about,
Yeah, I see that.
I had a kind of similar option for the probation one, but reading section 1 and section 2, they kind of repeat itself, kind of coming up with, I have language that basically just consolidates it into one section.
Okay,
That makes it a little easier.
and you're gonna counter with that.
Well, that's one counter,
Okay.
and then I think we were curious as to how we came to 120, because that ends up being like 3 months more than we typically operate as far as like extending probation time. So just doing like the basic math, 90 shifts is about 9 months. Plus, if they're doing their fire academy, in-service, all that stuff, that's about, a 6-month process. And Rich is in training, so he knows a little bit more about this.
We generally have 3. We have new employees that are not certified, fire or EMS. If we send them to all, both fire and EMS school, it takes approximately 6 months to get them to the field. With the 90 days plus the Kelly days that will be taken, that does stretch that timeline out to about a year. That's once they're in the field actually making 24-hour shifts.
Yeah,
So are you saying that the 90 days gets to a year of actual work experience?
Correct. If someone were to come to the city or to the department, being a firefighter and an EMT, they will go through a 6-week in-service, and they'll go out to the field, and their time on probation will be 12 months, vice the 18.
Right.
Still acquiring that approximate year in the field, being evaluated and taught.
All right, we'll talk about that, just in light of that feedback.
and then I
'Cause
can,
I know that our target in our mind was a year of full service, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, and I think we're all on the same page, like roughly a year. I think we're just, maybe we did the math different on the number, and then I can email you the 2 sections, basically consolidated into one. I think the language is a little cleaner, easier to understand, because after reading it, was like it's kind of all over the place on that one. So let me, I'll get that one to you here in a couple minutes.
All right. So let me move ahead now to the Civil Service Commission. We had some lively discussion about this, but we understand where you're coming from, and we would like to have firefighters have confidence in the Civil Service Commission, both in terms of their administrative functions, but also in terms of their disciplinary functions, and feel like that this is a organization that's not a stacked deck, as I've heard people refer to these things sometimes in some communities. And so we tweaked the language a little bit. It's not entirely semantics. It's important to the city manager that he is the person that is actually making the recommendations for appointments to the commission, but we welcome your input, influence, arm twisting, whatever you want to call it, to him about the people that you think ought to be on there and why, as he makes those recommendations. And I think it's a good thing for your leadership and your members to have that input into the process. And, in that context, we are looking at our disciplinary process and maybe some potential non-appealables so that we can strike a balance there. I think it's a good idea in the organization, not to have to fight through and pay for disciplinary proceedings on the low end of progressive discipline. And so that's something that we're taking a look at, and it kind of fits into the Civil Service Commission. So we'd ask you to take a close look at the way we've adjusted that. I don't think it's much of a change from what you were looking for. And I'll just tell you from my communications with the manager that, you know, he fully intends to be paying attention to your input in that process.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I mean, the biggest thing on there for us was that uneven number of commissioners, just for that tiebreaker, so, happy to see that still in there, and
Yeah.
I think you're basically kind of hitting the essence of what we were looking for, just, be a part of the process in some way, without taking away his rights to make that appointment.
Right. So our Article 19 payroll deduction, we're agreeing to do that and carry forward a process. There's a bunch of changes in Section 1. I think that I can just boil that all down to the city wants to have a clear certification of the dues amounts and who they get to be taken out of, so that from an administrative accounting standpoint, we know what needs to happen. The city doesn't have a responsibility and is not interested in agreeing to deduct things that are not union dues, like PAC contributions and so forth and so on. We may be able to revisit the special assessment issue, just depending on how it's made, but the payroll deduction section up there at the top is what we're trying to accomplish. We don't really know exactly what the special assessments y'all may have in mind. I know in some places they've done those for disabled firefighters or other types of contributions, and so I wouldn't say that door is slammed completely shut. It just kind of depends on what the purposes are and how frequently it happens.
Yeah, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've done an assessment. We've never done one, but in our bylaws, we have the option, like you said, if a guy's like catastrophically hurt or whatever it may be, and we want everybody to pitch in, we can do like a one-time assessment to help assist with those. But, you know, we've kind of changed our structure a little bit, so guys can voluntarily give to, we have a 501c3 now.
Correct.
So we're hoping that kind of helps cover that, but
May not be necessary, so.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we've never used it, but in our bylaws, we have
Right.
that option just in case.
Okay.
And our bylaws, and I think in the proposal I gave you guys, like we have to give you the reason, right?
Right.
Can't just be for some, hey, we're trying to raise some more money just because it's
Legitimate
yeah,
assessment.
a legitimate reason provided to you. But we'll, we're gonna have to look at that one a little bit and talk about that. I think one of the things that popped up to me that I think was a little bit of, I don't say concern to us, but just kind of trying to explain our side was, the notification written or signed by the employee. So the way our bylaws are currently written, that was approved by the membership, and this is IFF and state standard as well, we all kind of fall in line with that, is dues deduction is a percentage of firefighter pay. So every time there's a raise, you know, that goes up $1 or $2, whatever it is, right? So if we have to go back every year and get everybody to sign stuff, I mean, it takes months for us to do that, and then we're back collecting and stuff, as opposed to like we did this year when it went up. Said, hey, everybody needs to go up $1.28 every paycheck or something like that. Like it's typically a small amount and it's uniform across the board, but and we have some paperwork where they sign that acknowledges
Gotcha.
that they understand that it's 1% and it's gonna auto adjust every year, and that's also in our bylaws. If there's a way we can, you know, make that work where we don't have to go get signatures from 400 guys every time. The first time they fill out that paperwork, they're agreeing that they understand that it goes up every year based on
Okay.
what pay is.
All right, I understand the logic behind that request. We'll revisit that.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to clarify on that one, so the percentage amount, that isn't a due schedule that you all have? Because I think one of the challenges for our HR payroll folks right now is they don't know what that due schedule is. We just get like a dollar amount
Yeah.
from the employee.
And I don't think Brian's asking us to calculate it. I think.
Right, but we don't
Yeah.
have the due schedule, I don't think, right?
Yeah, and we have, so what I've done, in the spreadsheets we send is it basically lays out every person and what they've authorized. Like I said, there's other voluntary contributions they make.
Okay.
Like I said, the 501c3 we just started. So everybody kind of has a different comfort level they're willing to contribute to that nonprofit. So it does fluctuate a little bit. I'm not trying to make it, difficult on the city or payroll, trying to figure out a way that it's easy for everyone to kind of accomplish mutual goals.
Sure,
So,
agreed. And obviously, for us, it's the payroll efficiency problem. I'm
Right.
sure you can understand when they're doing different amounts for every firefighter, that's
Yeah.
just a logistical nightmare. So
Yeah.
we're trying to find a way to streamline it a little bit. I
Okay.
think that's our goal.
Yeah,
So I
well-
think we can work towards a solution on that.
Yeah, let me see if we can come up with some creative where it makes it streamlined for payroll.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful discussion. I mean, I already have some ideas that I didn't understand when we wrote this.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll keep talking about this. Successors and assigns, no real substantive change there, and then we've added the complete agreement clause there to the savings and amendments. So if y'all will give us any feedback that you have on that, after y'all have visited further about it, then wherever we place this next article, we also sent the appointed positions article. I think this one is pretty simple and straightforward. As you know, the statute provides for appointed positions for the chief. And what we're asking for here is that we have, I'm looking for the number in here on the line, where is it?
Well, it would just be to make the third position right now, it would make the third position now be a tested position when it becomes vacant, and then if, based on the size of the department under 143, if we
Right.
are allowed to add an additional fire chief, we would make all of them appointed.
Correct.
That's the gist of those sections.
So is it,
So the trigger is upon the vacancy of the currently attested position, so.
yeah,
This preserves the position for the individual occupying that position at this point in time.
I think we're hoping to get some background on that one, just kind of thought process behind it.
Well, I'll tell you this, in all the departments that I've represented, the second command position is one that the chief wants to be able to designate his chosen people so that he can carry out his mission and make sure that everybody is on the same page with him and his management philosophy and so forth and so on. And so it's just having, a reliable set of people that are on your team.
Yeah.
And he could probably articulate it better than I can, but that's the logic behind that.
Yeah.
And so respecting the fact that we currently have someone in that rank, not a word about they're not doing a fabulous job and everybody's happy with them, but, the next time that there's an opening, that we would go to a third appointed position.
Yeah, and we kind of figured an article like this may come up. We had some discussion about it. I think when we're talking about like looking down the road as far as like ratifying the contract and stuff goes, our message to our members and to the city for the last year has been want to secure we have and be consistent. I haven't got a good pulse on the membership as far as this article goes. My concern would be we make some big change without knowing how the membership feels. They end up, deciding not to ratify, and then, we spend a bunch of time. Like I said, I think some background, some questions we had, would help us on the understanding
Sure.
of the importance of this one. and then maybe we can convey that to the membership and kind of get a feeling of their comfort level on it. But like I said, I'd hate to spend a bunch of time and effort coming up with a great contract, and that's just something that the membership isn't 100% interested in. But like I said, we
I'll commit to get you a further explanation
okay.
on that question, because I want to make sure that you have everything that you need to educate your members and explain, if your leadership is recommending that we go forward and make this deal, after we shake hands on a TA on all the relevant articles, then you need to be able to tell them why you think it's the right thing to do. And so I'll help you do that.
Okay. And we have 2 appointed currently and 1 tested, so I think the idea is just when the tested one retires or leaves, whatever it may be, that just converts to appointed. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I think a little more background.
So it would be no change for now.
Right, no change for now. But if we do like a longer contract, looking at that 4-year
Yes.
kind of thing that you're doing, they're going to want to feel confident in the article, before signing off on it. So, like I said, I think a little more like background on it, like purpose, intent, like what problem does it resolve if there is a problem or not, just so we, like you said, we can kind of educate our membership on it.
Certainly.
I didn't want to say this, but we don't want a Beaumont situation here.
Uh-oh, I'm going to have to go get educated on that.
Well, on the
I'm
break,
gonna-
I'll fill you in.
You can fill me in, and then I'll have to talk to Kelly and find out if you're telling me the truth, right?
I haven't lied to you yet. No.
No, you haven't. Never. The next item on our list is the hiring provision in here, and you'll see that we've changed the maximum age limit from 35 to 40. And then pretty straightforward routine provisions on lateral hiring. I didn't spot or flag anything in there that I thought was gonna be problematic for y'all, but I'll just wait for feedback and see if it makes sense to you.
And I did just want to clarify, because in section 5 on the lateral hiring, part B, we inadvertently put the word Texas Public Fire Department in there, and we would like to strike Texas from that, is my understanding from the chief. So on B, we would look to strike that particular part. But I will say B, just so you know, in terms of where that language came from for us, is, as you all, I'm sure, are aware, the police department has lateral hiring in the local rules, and so that is, we took the language from the local rule, and I do have it with me if you want to look at it, but the language from the local rule on how they do lateral hiring in the police department, so we just transferred that over.
Yeah,
And
I
just
think,
so it's clear, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brian. Go ahead. You had a question?
well, I was going to discuss it, but I mean, if you have
I
some
just wanted to,
clarification.
on the Texas Fire Department, these are people that would have Texas Commission on Fire Protection certification, right? These are people that actually would be certified as firefighters when we bring them in.
Well, I think,
Lateral from outside the state of Texas.
yeah,
Lateral from outside the state of Texas.
But they
like
still have to have a
Calif- They're
Texas
still,
license.
sure, but counting their years of service.
Correct.
In other
Right, right.
public
So they can-
fire departments, yes.
Right, they can use years of service from other departments.
Correct.
Obviously, they're gonna be Texas firefighters in order to be
Yes,
hired.
that's
Yeah, and there's a process with TCFB where you can
Right.
transfer your years over.
Come in from Oklahoma, go down there,
Yeah,
and go in the back door and get your certification.
Yeah, we did have, again, questions on this one, kind
Sure.
of clarification purposes. Trying to figure out, again, the age range between 18 and 41, what, kind of purpose for it, like what issue are we having as far as recruiting goes, I mean, right now we're getting 2,000 people at a test, with the limits we have. I get the idea behind increasing the age. I mean, if somebody did 20 years in the military and they come out like they're still eligible.
I think that is probably the biggest answer, single answer to the question. The reason that we picked the 40 is that way somebody can come over here and do 20.
Yeah.
And invest on a pension, because that's a key part of the recruitment and attraction for the job. And so older than that, we'd probably be shooting ourselves in the foot anyway. But there's people out there, you know, that are, like you say, 35, coming from some other discipline, whether it's military or otherwise, and they decide they want to make a career change, and they got the capacity to do the job.
Yeah, like I said, I'd like, I think again, it'd make us all feel like a little more comfortable if we kind of understood the thought process behind it. You know, I try and think when I see like a proposal or something, like what's the issue we're trying to resolve here? I mean, we don't have an issue getting people to take our test. We're getting, you know, 2,000 people a test. So kind of what issue is this resolving when we're talking about making changes to 143? And then the, on the lateral side, I think it's going to be a hard sell to our members to have somebody come in that's brand new, getting paid more than somebody that's been here a couple years. I think if we're talking about incentivizing people coming from another department, I think it'd be easier to stomach and justify either more points on the entrance exam or maybe sign-on bonuses. I mean, hey, I don't know how much it costs to get somebody fully certified as a paramedic, you know, 30 grand or whatever it may be. But if somebody's already certified as a medic, here's a sign-on bonus, like it ends up saving the city money, you know, in the long run. I don't think that'd be a bad idea, but I think if we're having, like I said, we have somebody new to our department making more than somebody that's been here a couple of years, I could see at that level and rank some potential frustration or conflict. We have I think it's a good mentality in our department. We appreciate, you know, you may have come from somewhere else, but this is Irving. We operate the Irving way. We do it the Irving way. So having somebody else come in, again, getting paid more than somebody that's been here a couple years, I guess the point being is a lot of times we're not super concerned with where people came from. So again, I think the thought process is we just don't want guys getting paid more than somebody else that may have been here longer. But I think, you know, we're totally open to, you want to give them more points on the entrance exam so they're higher up on the list, cool. Or some sort of sign-on bonus, totally cool. Cool with that. But I think time and rank in Irving is important as far as pay goes. Yeah.
Lateral hires have come up for a number of years in our department. We've talked about it. We know that PD does it and been asked about it. And it's always been something that the association has kind of pushed back against for various reasons, like Brian talked about, culture and things like that, and bringing in outside people, let them get paid differently. One of the things that might be considered in the lawsuit that we had back, it's been a while, but Allen versus the city of Irving, it was determined that the step plan that we had was directly related to your seniority and your time on the department. So it was always kind of like if you were in step one, you were newly hired. If you were in step two, you had 6 months on or 8 months or whatever. You were in that threshold. And when the pay plans got adjusted, people got moved into different steps. And so the court at the time determined that our pay plan was directly tied to your seniority. So I don't know how this would play into that, but it's always been kind of something like we'll stay away from laterals because that's going to mess with our situation.
Well, the answer to that question, and I think Joe probably agree with me on this, if we preempt that provision in the statute, then we can do so. And so there's a separate question, and I don't think it's raised by your point. I'll take a look at that case. I don't think it was involved. Austin had a case which was a little bit different. It was the merger of the airport police division into the APD. And they had to slot everybody in there, and it was a big mess. But they got an age discrimination case that was filed on that. And so there's other issues like the age compliance dynamic. People that were over 40 years old were not treated the same as people that were under 40 years old. And I don't think that would have any application to the lateral hire. So I think that the standard in that Allen case probably was just the 143 equal pay for rank. question, but I'll take a look at it. But thank
Okay.
you for tipping me off about that.
Yeah, my comment is, things that work on the PD side don't necessarily work on the fire side. We're two different animals, you know?
And I think the point on that one again is I understand why PD does it. You know, they have a harder time recruiting than we do. Everybody wants to be a firefighter. So, I mean, like I said, we're getting 2,000 people test as it is.
Right.
Um,
But it's helpful, Brian, that you pointed out that you're not really opposed to people coming in as a lateral from outside. It's just the pay disparity that causes the dissonance in the organization.
Yeah, I think if they came in, you know, and they start at the same step as the new hire start at, even if,
Yeah.
like I said, sign-on bonus, whatever it may be, I see the benefit to a sign-on bonus. Like I said, if it, I don't know the exact number, but let's say it costs $30,000 to send somebody to paramedic school. If they're already a medic when they come here, we give them, throw a number out there, $10,000 sign bonus, still saves down the road $20,000. So,
And so I want y'all to think about this, because if I was gonna recommend something like that to the chief and the manager, what I would probably wanna do is not to hand them a $10,000 or $15,000 check when they walk in the door, but to pay that over a period of time.
definitely.
That way they have
fa-
to stay here
Yes.
for me to get my
Yeah.
money's worth.
Definitely phased in.
And that's not gonna be offensive, even though that's a continuing payment, as long as their salary's on the same
Right.
step.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I think, and again, we've had some discussion with the members in the past about this. I think, yeah, starting at a different step was problematic for some of them, but everybody understands if you're already certified and we're not spending the money on that.
Sure.
An incentive isn't.
Saving the taxpayers
it
money.
isn't
And
a
then
big deal.
Otherwise, everybody's treated the same.
Yeah, and I think if, again, I don't think we have a problem with recruiting, but if we want to recruit and get people already certified from some other place, if they see there's a sign-on bonus, that is going to help as well. And that solves, again, some of our issues of having to send people to school and backfill overtime and all that. So I think everybody be able to stomach a sign-on bonus or points on the test, whatever it may be. I think that would be a easier sell the membership than the lateral.
And
and right
rare?
now-
Isn't it rare for firefighters to move to a lateral like that? I don't recall it ever happening. Usually, somebody starts a career in the city and they stay 50 years. No, not really.
Historically, that's really been the case, you know, if they don't,
Yeah.
bail out and go work for TAFF, you know.
They
Right
do.
now, I think
Ow, lol.
one of the big things that we have in our favor is we do quote-unquote poach members from other departments. We're getting laterals coming in right now, and we have in the past, and I think that speaks, very highly of our pay structure, the way it's set up, and the city's commitment to making sure we're in the market.
Sure.
And we're highly competitive, and
Right.
we get people coming here all the time.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I promise you, the chief and the management team appreciate you saying that. All right, so that's what we have for today so far. We're gonna go back and work on some more. Do y'all have anything else for us at this point?
Let me take a look here. So yeah, I could send you three more articles. I can send you three. That'll basically leave us with 6 left.
Okay.
I think some of the 6 are kind of, contingent on how we do the other,
Sure.
how the other ones, but I will send you certification pay. The new certification policy just came out last night, so I haven't had like a great opportunity to look at it, but I think our proposal for the certification article is pretty close to on par with what the new policy was. I will send you guys the sick leave policy or article,
Okay.
and then the labor management committee. And I can, I don't know if you guys are gonna go discuss them, but I mean, I could touch on them briefly if you'd like me to, or,
If you have something that you want us to know as we look at them, go ahead and, give us your sales pitch. If you want us to read them first and come back and discuss them, we can do it either way. It's your call.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll send them over, you can look them over,
Good.
then we can come back and discuss them.
Excellent.
In
Okay.
open forum.
You bet.
Let
Okay.
me,
Very good.
let me send that to you real quick, Janet.
Thank you, sir. So what I will do then, we'll get these, we'll take a caucus, and in about 30 minutes, I will give you a text back on progress and kind of projection on when we reconvene.
Okay.
And if
Yeah.
y'all need anything in the meantime to facilitate your discussions on any of the things we've laid out today, just let us know. We can get back together if you need anything
Yeah.
further.
I think, just personal opinion, first time doing this, I think it would help having, like, if we had more people down here and we can just have some discussions face to face as opposed to going back and forth, I think would help speed the process up so we can understand thought process and perspective behind stuff, help us better understand stuff so we can convey that, to the membership and make it a little, more expeditious, in how we're going through with this. But I'll let you guys, discuss that after the first one, and we kind of go from there. But
I think we anticipated at some point today we would have the chief down here
Okay,
to
cool.
engage in conversation, so we will certainly talk to the rest of the team and work on that piece. The conference room from last time is available
Okay.
for you all for your caucus, I just wanted to point out. And you did just email?
yeah, I
Okay.
emailed you
Okay,
through
yeah.
them.
Okay.
Just let me know if you get them or not. I know the Wi-Fi is.
So it's a little after 10:30, so around 11, we'll touch base, see where we're at.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, let me know if you didn't get the three. So
take just a few minutes
on the Okay. server Cool. text
you if I don't get it.
sounds good. Thanks to all.
All right, y'all ready to proceed?
Yep.
We've got the chief here to address some of the things that you were asking me about. I'd given you my understanding, but obviously his perspective on this is what you're most interested in. There were several of those pieces. One of them that I remember is the 120 hours probation, also the laterals, and the question about the, relative level of pay within the department, step levels and so forth. We've had our internal discussions with that, and so y'all are welcome to have that discussion with him on those articles and anything else, and then I'll give you some feedback on what we've got going on. I know we have scheduling underway. There were some emails about trying to get dates tied down. My paralegal, I think, is out sick today after some dental surgery or something, and so we probably won't have another meeting, but we need to have one pretty soon, because we're actually moving pretty quickly in terms of getting things put together.
The next,
So-
no, the next meeting she had on the email was July 9th.
And then there was only two other ones after that. There were only 3 days in July.
Okay.
But we can probably, we would,
Let's go ahead and just tie down the 9th and the 28th if y'all can.
Do you want to ever do a 2-day meeting? Like the 28th and 29th?
I don't know unless I talk to her and she's gone. That's my problem.
so she put in the email 28th and 29th, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about doing both those days?
Yes, sir.
Saying 9, 28, and.
28th and 29th. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
question. Is a 2-day meeting a possibility just to get more accomplished? Think about it. Okay. We did that in Wichita Falls. Okay.
9th, 20th, 29th.
So I'll turn it over to the chief. Chief, I didn't know if you wanted to have any preliminary feedback, you've heard the earlier discussion.
I did, I believe y'all are asking for some more background on appointing the third assistant chief, and that's, I think it's pretty clear, but we can put it out there to discuss. Any executive is going to want a team that can withhold confidentiality and talk about things that moving forward, whether it's discipline or, the moving of the department or whatever the case may be going forward. And so to have somebody just test into that position that doesn't necessarily fit the team can cause problems. Now, I will say, who we have currently, I have no issues with, and I may not with the next one, but that's leaving it up to chance. And so I think this would be a good opportunity as we go through and negotiate things. This is a good faith one here that should be an easy choice to allow me to pick my own. Our peers in the city do the same. I think most departments, when they go through negotiations, this is one of the things the chief would like to have. I think future chiefs would like to be able to select their own as well. What fits their personality, what fits their philosophy, their business plan. And so that's, it's pretty basic. There's no hidden agenda on this one.
Yeah. And, I think it's mostly cut and dry in this article. Like I said, I think I hate to go through the whole process and we not, get ratification from the membership over an article. I don't know if there's a way where we can, pause for this one for, day or a couple days or whatever and kind of get a gauge from the guys and we can explain. I think your reasoning is sound, but get a gauge just to make sure that this is going to be a successful ratification.
We don't have any problem with the time you need to build your momentum on your side of the table. And so,
Okay.
if you have to wait on saying yes, we understand the dynamics of, getting people on board and having everybody understand what's going on. You got a democracy to run, and we get it.
Yeah. I just want to make sure whatever we propose to them is going to stick. Our ratification process and our bylaws is kind of lengthy. So if we propose and it doesn't go through, now we got to go back to the drawing board, and then it's another time frame. I know time is kind of the essence here, so.
Yeah, both sides are putting a bunch on the table, and I'm hoping at our next meeting, I'm confident, frankly, that by the 9th, that we'll be able to give you the rest of the pieces of this puzzle. There is a very large amount of money involved in achieving these staffing objectives. And so I think it's going to be, I think your members are going to be able to see the long-term advantages and how everybody wins on what's going to finally be on the table.
Yeah,
And that'll be the context for looking at things like this.
Yeah, and I think all that'll help, kind of like I said before, a lot of like the big picture, kind of scope of the entire contract, I think is the selling point. But like I said, just want to, feel confident that it's going to be good to go. Like I said, we haven't gauged the membership much on this one. Like I said, we were kind of, the plan we've been telling them was capture progress, secure we have. So there are some big changes that they weren't expecting. We just want to make sure that we're going to be successful the first go around. But we'll definitely convey the message. And like I said, I think your logic is pretty sound. We just want to make sure it sticks the first go. So we're not back amending stuff.
You know how well we do with change, right, Chief?
Yeah.
After 40 years, I do know.
I read in a book somewhere that fire department was 100 years of tradition unhampered by progress.
Anybody else have any questions on that one now? Okay.
It's pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
Okay, we can hold on that one then.
Other issues that y'all wanted to feedback on?
Um,
Beyond what I had already kind of shared secondhand from him?
the article on, filling the beginning positions, again, I'm not 100% certain with the age. I get the max age people getting out of the military, do 20 years, whatever that may be. Don't get lowering the age a whole bit. Like I said, we've got a pretty stout applicant pool, like number of people applying. Thought process behind lowering it.
Lowering or raising it?
So I get the thought process behind increasing it. Don't get the thought process behind lowering it to 18 from 21. So we can get some.
Did we talk about the 18?
We didn't talk about it today.
No,
but
no.
it's in our-
I'm in agreement with that. We didn't talk about, and 143
Yeah.
says 18.
Yeah.
So the verbiage was there, where we've confined it a little more to 21.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of leaving it at 21.
Okay.
That's a maturity level for us.
Yep.
The 40 now, as you know, there's been a couple of times through legislation, they've tried to increase the age,
Right.
for the applicant pool. Now, I think you're right. Since the city manager has funded the recruitment team, our numbers have gone way up. But what we're looking at here, and the point was made, is we're looking at increasing staffing. And you know what the cost impact's going to be there to the city. I'm looking for ways, quite frankly, and I was looking for ways before, and I've had these conversations with y'all in the past, of bringing people in already certified, that lowers the impact financially to the city to bring somebody in. And your numbers just for paramedic training to fill the vacancy in the seat to send somebody to paramedic school the whole time they're there is roughly $100,000.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
know. And the same for the beginning position. You're going, we just hired 9 for Medic 8. And so those 9 people that we sent to firefighter school, they got to go through firefighter EMT, and then you got to line the schools up, and then you got orientation on top of it. There may be a gap between the two, there may not.
Yeah.
And so that is a financial impact to the city.
What?
Another aspect is there are cities across the state that are not bound by 143. I'm trying to compete with those cities.
Yeah.
They're bringing people in on lateral transfers. They're bringing people in on signing bonuses. We can't do those things, So I'm trying to open the door to help us. And then also in the pipeline, we're looking at cities in our region that are looking to go to a 24/72 schedule. We've got some that went to a 48/96. And I suspect there'll be individuals that have put time in those departments say, you know what, this isn't quite what I thought it would be, and start looking for opportunities outside that department. So I want to open that gate up for us to bring them in. So, and, so our local rules, we already pretty much had that verbiage set up with the PD side of things. So we're just trying to stay consistent in the local rules on how we bring them in. But those are some of the reasons why these two things are kind of hand in hand. When I had a gentleman the other day that came up to me and said his son worked for another department he's not happy with, but he's got 9 years in. He doesn't want to leave, so he's kind of stuck, and that's where these departments like San Marcos and some of the other ones have opportunities for lateral transfers that we don't have.
Yeah. What are your, I know you heard our discussion before, but kind of thought process on, like I said, adding points on the test and then sign-on bonuses and stuff, contingent upon
Yeah, we've already
completing
had
probation.
a positive interaction on that. We're working on a revised proposal.
Yeah, I
Go
think.
ahead. I didn't mean to cut y'all off in your
Yeah,
discussion.
I think the membership would feel more comfortable with, like I explained before, hey, if you're already certified, saving the city money long-term, cool, give them a sign-on bonus, and I think we've seen in other cities and stuff that does help with lateral and.
But let's be honest, if you let's say we recruit somebody from another department, we're paid quite well, like number 2 in the region, right? We're right close to topping out close to Plano. I'm gonna have a hard time recruiting people from Plano and them come in and start at step 1. I'm gonna have a hard time bringing from Garland or Arlington or some of these larger departments that are going to be, as Daniel said, poaching from us. Now, when that 24/72 schedule comes out, and it will, there's going to be a major poach going on. It's not just going to be Plano, because Plano's going to fill theirs, and then other cities that got poached in the larger city framework, they're going to start poaching from each other. Once again, if I can't get on the same playing field, we're working from behind. I'm gonna be bringing people in, they're gonna start at step one. They're not gonna wanna come here, you know? So, these are things I'm trying to develop for our department to keep us successful with the way we're going now. I'm not looking to cut anybody's legs out from under them, never have been that way. It's always been about our department, our city. And I think these will give us more opportunities to stay on top of some of these things that we're gonna have challenging us in the future or now. You know, through COVID, we had a lot of problems with, you know, recruiting, and on top of that, other cities poaching, having sign-on bonuses and all that we didn't do. You know, and so I just think it's another opportunity for people where the state is looking, and I know it's been put in legislation, and I can't remember the city right outside of Waco that was, who? No, it was a smaller town. They were having trouble recruiting, so they were looking to expand the age limit. And so I think that's coming. Our average age to retire is right at 60 now, and that's where the 40 comes from. They can still get a full pension working from 40 to 60, and that's where that came from. I know there's been some discussions of going up to 45. I don't think that fits for us, but I think 40 could plug that hole. That's a gap right now.
Yeah, and I think with our hiring process the way it is, I think if, you know, we're gonna find the best qualified people, no matter the age range. And I was down in Austin while some of those departments were talking about increasing the age, and they brought up, you know, military experience and whatnot. Like I said, I don't think that one, increasing the age is a terrible idea. I think that, you know, lowering the age, I think we're in agreement, probably not the best idea.
We're gonna change our proposal and put
Okay.
21 back in it.
Okay, yeah, and like I said, I think with the change, that'll give us a little bit of time, again, to kind of, you know, gauge the membership on that coming in at a certain step, you know, versus, like a sign-on bonus or whatever that may be. So it'll give us a little bit of time.
And quite frankly, we can go back and discuss this, but we can also look at the pay. You know, if you got a smaller department coming in, and I don't know if this is even legal, but this will be up for discussion. If you got a smaller department personnel that's coming in, and it's not necessarily beneficial to bring them in at a step 4, 5, 6, whatever, but starting pay is actually an increase for them, like we've done in the past from Duncanville. You know, maybe that's an option there, but when you're bringing in people from larger departments.
You're talking about doing an on-ramp.
Yeah,
Yeah, somebody comes in, they're at a lower pay,
Yeah.
and they actually ratchet up to your existing step
Right,
pay
right.
for those deals.
yeah.
So
I mean, we can
hadn't
talk
thought
about that.
On-ramp deal, and that might address the concerns that you've got people coming in. I don't know if it does or not. You know, your primary problem is somebody comes in and they're from outside and they get credit for prior seniority, and then you're an outsider and you're getting paid more than me, and we're doing the same job, so.
Yeah, I think that's where the concern is from the membership. But again, I also understand hey, we're about to ramp up staffing quite a bit, try and get creative. So I see both sides of it. Again, I think it comes down to kind of conveying both sides to the membership, just make sure people are comfortable with what we're doing. I mean, we're talking about significant increase.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting the nail on the head here is city management is really trying to come up with some creative ideas to get us to the 4 firefighter staffing. We've been asking for that for over 30 years, you know, but with everything that's going on in this city and the needs that we have in this city, I can assure you our city manager's coming up with some creative ideas, and what we're looking for is or for you to help us in some areas that we need help in, and this is one of them that you can help us in.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, it sounds like this may be a good one, like when you guys have your revised one, maybe we can put like a small committee together and try and, you know, figure it out before the next meeting. But like I said, that does buy us a little bit of time to work it out with the membership and make sure we can come to something that works for both of us and we can get a ratified contract, so. Not opposed to that.
Are you, do you have any other existing labor agreements in mind with these lateral hires that you want us to look at? I'm already up to speed on what you're talking about on the signing bonus dynamic, like we talked about, to, you know, spend some of the money that we're saving for people that are already certified and ready to go to work.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to sift through some of them and figure it out. Honestly, like I said, I haven't looked at that before. before we started. I just, didn't quite cross our mind as far as like the on-ramp and that kind of stuff. So probably a little bit of research on our end.
we can
and
research
and
on our end.
education.
Well, something else for you to consider while you're looking through some of these things is the signing bonus as compared to the annual salary and the steps and all that. You cannot get them there that quick. Therefore, your recruitment tool has gone down tremendously. So say you're going to give them a $10,000 sign-on, but yet they're a 10-year veteran somewhere else. They can come in here making more than $10,000 their first year alone. You see what I'm saying? So that decision's still not going to be enough to entice them to cross over. And that's where the lateral transfer and plugging them into the step helps us bring them in.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to, like I said, we'll do a little bit of research on language and what like an appropriate, where they come in would be. And then, like I said, kind of gauge the comfort level of everybody. Yeah, I think when we're talking about like some of these bigger changes and stuff like that, we just want to make sure, everybody's comfortable, so we're good to go going forward. But yeah, definitely like to see, the amended one and kind of give us a good starting point. And I'll email you guys if I see some language in some other contracts or recruiting tools that appealing. Definitely trying to be creative with how we can get good candidates for the increase in staffing. And I think the only other one was probation period. I think we're trying to do the same thing. I think the number is just trying to figure out where we got 120 versus 90 or even 100, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we're both going the same direction. And really, all I'm trying to do is, there's 2 times I see these individuals when you don't like them in the field. First time is when I hire them, but the second time I see them is when you don't like them and I have to terminate them. The rest of the time is up to you in the field. And y'all determine whether that individual is going to fit in our department or not. I'm trying to give you a better look at them by giving a full year rather than 9 months. As we do now, we rotate through 3 stations. And then in between the stations, when they do their rotation, is when they're pulled out of the training, make sure they can do some of these job essential tasks. And then at the end, of course, they have their test and interview and all that. So I'm just trying to give us plenty of room there to assess the individuals when they're coming through after they complete all their training. Now, I know it extends it a little bit of time, but that's the beauty of collective bargaining. We can reach outside of 143 and carve out whatever we want to be the best.
Yeah.
But
I think on our end, like, we'd like to keep it close to like the 12-month and 18-month kind of time frame. And then there is that option in there right under, on the updated one, it's section 2B, but I think it's 3B on the older one, where you can extend basically another month if needed. So I think we like the idea of 12, 18-month time frame roughly, with the ability to extend another month if we need to. But I mean, the whole intent behind this article was somebody gets hurt, deployed, whatever it may be, we can stop that clock and actually get a full evaluation of the person before signing off on them.
And that's where we're in 100% agreement. You know of some of the challenges we've had in the past, either workers' comp or deployment or whatever, where we're not getting to assess these individuals, and it causes frustration across the department when they cross the finish line and we don't have a say-so in how that happens. And so I think we're in agreement. I'm not looking to shave time off
Yeah.
or add time for any particular reasons. I'm just trying to round it out to a full year.
Okay.
If 9 months seems more agreeable, we can carry that back and talk about it a little bit more, but it's not creating a huge heartburn for me.
I think we ended up was about 100 shifts. I think Rich is in training, so he knows kind of the breakdown a little more.
Chief, to talk about that a little bit, like I was telling them, we've got the 2 categories. Those are certified, those are not. Those that are certified, they're going to spend 12 months in the field. That's after you've given them to us for 6 weeks at the training facility to do an in-service. They go to the field. The 90 shifts with a Kelly day will actually come out to be closer to 10 months time with the 6 weeks for in-service and getting everything processed. That really comes out to that 12-month time period that we were looking at, just as we have now. if you're fully certified, you're on a 12-month probation. If you are not certified and we send you to any schools, it's an 18-month probation currently. Right now, getting people through the 4-month school, EMT school being 2.5 months, and then in service, that does leave us about that 6-month time frame. So we're looking at about that 10 months in the field already with that 90 days.
So what if, I mean, it sounds like we're close. I mean, like if we went up to 100 shifts, I mean, that puts us at about in between 11 and 12 months. And then you have that 10 shift option. So it could extend it a little bit more if we needed it. But I think it sounds like 100 shifts gets us right about 11 to 12 months. I think if our math is mathing correctly, but.
Like I said, I mean, basically, you're negotiating against yourself right now, because I don't have any heartburn in this. I'm
Yeah.
trying to give you a better look at new recruits. And you're right, the 18 months, I'm not sure, I thought you said after their training, but, you know, the 18 months includes the training, when they go through all their training, and the 12 months includes your orientation while you have them at the training academy as well. So,
Yeah,
you know, if you want to go with 100, I don't have any heartburn with 100.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to go with 11 months, this is, I think this is good faith on both sides of how we're working through this, and how we should work through these things, because these are the individuals that we'll be hiring to represent us and this department in the future. So make sure you get a good look at them before we put it in this contract. Let's agree on what we want to do. And it's just not a matter of you walk away with the win or I walk away with the win. It's a matter of the
Yeah.
city walks away with the win.
yeah, 100% agree. And I
Okay.
think the only reason we had the question was the thought process on 120, but it sounds like we're on the same page. We want the same thing. So I guess on our end, you know, I guess we need to update it with what I sent you, and then we'll do the math on, you know, how many shifts and the Kelly days and whatnot. We'll come out to that basically 12-month evaluation window in the field.
Well,
So
best I remember in your verbiage, didn't you put in the verbiage that actual shifts on a fire apparatus?
Correct.
90?
Yeah.
So that doesn't include the Kelly days, right?
Right, and that's all we're trying to figure out
Yeah.
is what's the number to make it
Yeah.
basically 12 months in the field. And we'll hammer that, you know, we'll narrow that down here. We'll put pen to paper, and then we can email you the updated one.
Yeah,
But
we appreciate it. This is the way it's supposed to work. We thank y'all.
yeah, I think, yeah, I think we're on the same page on that one. Trying to think of what else we propose that we need.
You gave us several articles today that are going to take some time and some costing.
Yeah,
So, you know, that's going to be at our next meeting. Certification incentive pay, we talked about that some. Sick leave will be a part of kind of our package overall proposal. I referred to that earlier, and that's going to include the funding clause, the staffing article, and the sick leave article. The Labor Management Committee, we'll have a counter proposal for you on that. We're philosophically in favor of doing that. I've talked to the chief about it. And Becky and I are going to look at a couple other contracts, but we will have a counter for that before the next time. We talked, Janet and I talked briefly about the discipline article. We're also anticipating sending that one to you before the next meeting. But it's not finished today. We're going to continue working on it today before I get out of here. So I think that's probably where we are. Let me see if there's anything else that we,
so we have, if it helps or not, I mean, try and get some stuff done. There's probably 8 articles that I think we're good with, that you guys sent us, that we're probably good with Tiang.
okay?
Um,
So why don't we have a lunch break and come back and just keep house and go through the list and make sure we have a status report. And we are also going to finalize our proposal. We don't have an ABL proposal from you, but we're going to send you ours before the lunch break's over with.
okay.
All right?
Yeah. Think that'll
Anything
work.
else before we take a lunch break?
There's nothing else we need to discuss
I mean, there were,
for now.
I mean, there's a couple articles, but, I mean, we can wait till after lunch break. That's all. I don't think there's anything else that needed fire chief expertise on, per se.
And we're on the July 9th and 28th and 29th dates that we're locking in. Are we suggesting to start again at 9, or do you guys want to do 10 a.m.?
Nine's
I'm
fine.
good with 9. Try
Nine's
and
fine.
knock it out.
Okay.
If I go to Florida, I'll pay better attention.
You should have been an
I
hour.
know to text you.
That's right.
Been an hour and a half ahead, though.
Yep,
All right, thank you all.
that's
Say
exactly
like
right.
An hour?
If I'd been in New Mexico, I'd have been an hour early, see?
Yeah, what
I came from El
time frame
Paso.
we looking at? Timeline on coming back?
That's exactly right. Mountain time.
What do you guys want to do? 1:45? Being about an hour? It's 12:20.
Yeah, sure.
1:45, good, okay.
Okay. We are.
So we have sent you 2 articles I'll briefly comment on, and we can have discussion today or later after you have a chance to study them further. Our ABL article basically is intended to capture current practice, and adding to that the time for the negotiation process to what the department's approach has been in the past for time off. Want to make sure that you understand the context of what we are talking about. I would not be surprised if y'all are seeking something greater than what we have put on the table, but we're just being sensitive to the fact that all of these staffing issues make the cost of achieving the growth in staffing that we're moving toward less feasible, less affordable, or take longer to implement. And so those are truly the sensitivities that are behind that article. So we'll wait to get your counterproposal on that, but we wanted to put into play what we've been doing before, plus the additional accommodation for leave time for association purposes in the bargaining process itself. We've also sent you our disciplinary article, and we have included a couple of features in here. I think it's pretty simple and straightforward. We're looking to have what I call the shorter-term suspensions to be appealable to the Civil Service Commission as opposed to an outside arbitrator. What I'm trying to accomplish here and have recommended to the city of Irving and for years to many other clients is just to try to control the cost of disciplinary process. So we want to be fair. We want to make sure that everybody has due process and has a fair hearing. I mentioned earlier today that in conjunction with our agreement that the association should have input into the selection of people on the commission, that's actually a viable disciplinary alternative. As I think that you know, even though, as I understand from my inquiries here, it's been almost universal that the use of outside independent arbitrators has been the discipline appeal of choice. If you go to the commission and you don't prevail, you still have a judicial review under that statutory process. So we'd just like you to take a look at that. I'm aware in other places of lawyers that primarily actually prefer the Civil Service Commission model, but that's your choice. What we're looking for is a non-appealable level of discipline so that people can begin in the progressive discipline process, and both sides, the association and/or the city, don't spend more money than the penalty is actually worth. We're just trying to get performance, you know? We're not trying to get rid of firefighters. You know, in my mind, there is a total difference between a suspension, which is intended to get performance and compliance and to, you know, have some influence on an employee that's a good employee that needs to stay here and continue their career. That's a totally different proposition than somebody that gets terminated. You know, they're just not even in the same ballpark. And so that's the context that we want you to look at that. We have proposed for the chief to be able to impose a higher level of discipline, and although that probably, again, looks like something mean that management is doing, I personally don't see it that way at all. I recommended this to the chief because I like the chief to have an option of suspending somebody for a longer period of time instead of having to decide that this conduct is too bad for 16 days and I've got to fire them. So that's the context. I wanted y'all to understand where that's coming from. Y'all can digest that and spend the time it takes for you to talk among your team and get feedback from your membership. And I appreciate your listening through my little speech.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, sounds good. We'll take a look at it. We've been working on one as well. Kind of some similar aspects to it. And then, as you guys saw in the table of contents, planning on proposing establishing a disciplinary matrix as well. Again, to kind of expedite that process for just general. Like the discipline that maybe the infractions that occur like more frequently. But I don't think in the timeline we have, we're going to totally hash out a disciplinary matrix. The proposal will basically be, we're going to, sit down and figure out a disciplinary matrix within so much time, and we'll figure it out, after the fact. But we're planning on sending that proposal when we actually get to the discipline part. But we'll look at this and we'll talk about it. We'll have we'll get it figured out.
I appreciate that feedback, and I know there's already some common ground with the chief on the disciplinary matrix. It's underway. They're thinking about it. We spoke about that earlier as we went through this article and how they kind of fit together.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably true, although I don't know the details at the level you probably do about how quickly the matrix can get done, whether it can be done by the time we finish this contract, but probably not. But it's entirely feasible, because I've done it before, where the matrix just comes in and plugs in, and we have created the article to where it contemplates that being in place during the course of the contract.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah. We'll like I said, we'll digest it a little bit. We'll see if we come up with something
Okay.
amongst our research. We'll get it to you guys.
Excellent.
And I think, and then the ABL one, we'll review that as well and send you over what we have. As far as the remaining goes, I just emailed you the probationary period. But besides that, I think there's probably 8 or somewhere between 8 and 10 we can probably TA or agree to today.
Let's go through those.
Okay. So, first one would be number 1, Article 1. We're gonna come back to Article 2. The next TA was Article 3. Article 4. Article 5. Article 6. Article 9. And 24 and 25. And then there may be one more. We just had a question on your guys' proposal,
All right.
before going with that.
What is that?
So on 17, the Civil Service Commission. So I think for the most part, the article works. Under Section 3, where it talks about the manager will receive input from the association, like how are we going to gain that information to provide input? And I think in the original article we had, we can at least sit in on the interview and ask questions and stuff, and that would help us provide input, because, I think the only like I said, trying to seek some clarification on that particular part. Like, I just don't know how we would get input, how we could provide input if we're not in the room, or, we don't get to see the interview or whatever it may be. Like, we typically don't find out about who's going to be on the commission or recommend for the commission until it's on council agenda for confirmation, so.
So as I had read kind of the section 1 of that original proposal, Brian, where it said you all were going to maintain a list of 3 eligible candidates to give to the director, I think, that was one way in which we possibly thought you all have your own people who you might believe you want to be on the commission, and you give those to the director, and then, the city manager can certainly sit down and talk to you all and receive some input about those individuals. So I guess you were envisioning that those 3 names would be generated from a separate, the interview process, separate?
Well, I think the idea was like, so they're going through the process and we're like, hey, we're okay with, or we like these 3, whatever, if a vacancy becomes available, we can kind of give one of those 3, but, as we discussed it, I don't know how we even know who's gonna be on the commission if we're, or how we can even make a recommendation if we're not in the room, if a meeting's being had or something like that. Just trying to figure that part out. I mean, I think the majority of the article's good. I'm trying to figure out that one part.
We'll go back and visit with the city manager about that dynamic and see what the possibilities are. I think
Okay.
that we were thinking about this different. I think that we
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
thinking that you would kind of have your people,
right.
and then,
Okay.
he and or his team, fire chief, city council, whatever, would have their folks. But I can certainly see the logic of, we'd like to have some data and information about the people that are coming up on the city side so that we could comment on them, and he could take that comment into account. So we'll visit with him about that.
Okay.
And see what we can do to accommodate that without making it too complicated or stretching it out too much.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that was really the only, question. Other than that, I think the proposal articles is good to go. And then, 15 I already sent you. Like I said, we did the math.
Yeah.
About 100 shifts ends up coming out to just over 11 months. And that gives us we were looking at sticking around 12-month, 18-month probation. That gives us about 11 with the option to extend another month. So I think we'll let you guys, kind of review that, make sure everybody else okay with it. And then this one's probably a bigger one, I think, but I don't know if you want me to go over this one with you, like Article 11, the overtime, the hours worked one. If we want to dive into that right now, or do you want me to quickly touch on the 3 proposals I emailed you guys before the break? Because I think Article 11 probably gonna take a little longer.
Yeah, let's do that. Go through the ones that you sent,
Okay.
and just kind of lay those out. We'll see if we've got questions, and then we'll go into Article 11.
Okay, so Article 10, certification pay. That is mostly copied and pasted from city ordinance, city policy. The first page is exactly copy and pasted, just kind of in a different position. Where the changes kind of occur is Section 4, certification pay. So most of the pays are the same as what they currently are. One of the ones that we increased was SCBA technician. So currently they're at $50 a month. We recommended $100 a month, and the reason for that is so the SCBAs are breathing apparatus. That's the most important piece of equipment we have on the fire department. Those guys work constantly on maintaining and repairing them. A lot of other cities end up outsourcing that work. That costs a ton of money. I think we have a huge benefit to us doing it internally. Those guys do a ton of work I mean, anytime there's a repair, whatever it may be, we go to that station, they take care of it pretty quick. So they're constantly busy, so we felt like it was $50 in 2011. I mean, you know, times have changed a little bit, just kind of increasing that. And there's not a whole bunch of them. I mean, they're only assigned to one station, and not everybody at that station is even certified to do it. But we felt like the work they provide would be worth a little more compensation. That was the justification for that one. And then we broke down the fire inspector, investigator, and TCOL certification in that one. Before, it was $100 a month for fire prevention incentive pay. Most of the other cities we compare to are closer to $300 to $500 for those prevention people. So the way this was broken down was they could theoretically qualify for $300 a month. And I have a little asterisk there is you can only qualify for that if you are in the fire prevention division. I put a maximum of 3 certifications from that section on there. Thought that was appropriate to limit what people are able to get. But a lot of what's in there, like I said, requires additional training, additional CE, additional certification hours. So it is time consuming to stay up to date with hazardous materials, rescue, all that stuff. But like I said, the only changes in that one were SCBA tech, and then inspector, investigator, and then the TCOL certification. And then section 5, the only other change was administrative pay. So again, we've seen a lot of cities go to a percentage on administrative pay. Since 2011, it's been $250 a month for people in the field. If you go downtown for an assignment, that was the monthly payment you got. When you go downtown, you work an administrative assignment, you're not eligible for out-of-class pay, overtime, whatever that may be. So this kind of gives a little more incentive. The way our administrative assignments procedure is set up is typically like least senior officer ends up going down there. A lot of times it's people that go from a 24, 48-hour shift to a Monday through Friday shift, so it kind of changes some stuff in their life. And they do a lot of work, so we felt like a percentage would help maybe either incentivize people going down there or help limit the impact of not getting overtime or out-of-class pay. And with the percentage as opposed to a set number, so it fluctuates, right? So a firefighter is going to get less than, let's say, a captain, but a captain also has more responsibility than a firefighter does. So felt like a percentage was a appropriate route on that one. But I know it's a lot. Like I said, I know you guys have finances and stuff done. I don't expect any sort of answer, but I just wanted to explain to you what we were looking at. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
I think we understand the logic and the rationale behind it. We'll discuss that and figure out
Okay.
if there's not some common ground and understanding here.
Okay. The other one was Article 12, the sick leave policy. This is a kind of combination of current city policy and some of what our input thought would be beneficial to the department and city. So Section 2, sick leave accumulation, that is copy and pasted from the sick leave policy in the city. Section 3, use of sick leave, is also copy and pasted from city policy. Section 4 is copy and pasted from city policy. Section 5 is kind of where it differs a little bit. Currently, under city policy, if you call in sick for X number of hours in a 12-month rolling period, you've got to provide a doctor's note. The thought process on this one was if you call in sick for 2 or more consecutive shifts, if you're on 24, 48, you would have to provide a doctor's note the first time you return. The reason for that is a lot of times, like our job, gotta be 100%, 100% of the time. Sometimes if somebody, they just got a stomach bug or something, doesn't necessarily require a doctor's visit, right? Like, we're all trained medical professionals. We make life and death decisions on a day-to-day basis. Seems kind of, on our end, from a cost side, counterproductive if we have to go get a sick note every single time we call in sick. Because I know if we go to the doctor, I'm sure the city has, or the insurance has an additional cost on top of what our deductible is. But we felt like it would be, fair. You're gone 2 shifts in a row, you gotta bring in a sick note.
All right,
And I think,
I understand that. I've heard that argument before. And, we will sort that out.
okay, and then,
I mean, there's some good triggers in that section. I won't say it's a partnership because it's not the association's responsibility, but it is command responsibility to oversee the sick leave policy and get attendance, One of my frustrations sitting on this side of the table is that in most of the departments that I've been close to, everybody knows who the people are that aren't carrying their share of the load, and that's what the chief's trying to accomplish here, is to make sure some of the people you gotta tell them to go home because they're sick,
yeah,
and so you hear me, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
So, and if we got everybody there and we're not wasting money and people are not gaming the system, then everybody needs to be happy. So,
yeah, no, I agree, and that's why we kind of threw in section E. I mean, if you're pairing it with, holidays or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
some other scheduled leave time, like, you have to provide documentation for that. So, try and limit, potential abuse of the system while also kind of, just being logical. Like I said, we make life and death decisions all the time. I don't need to go see a doctor if I got a stomach bug. Pretty straightforward. So, section 6 is copy and pasted from city policy. Section 7 is copy and pasted from city policy. But like I said, law in that one. Let y'all digest. Happy to answer any questions, but that's the gist of that one.
Yeah, we're taking, as you might expect, we're taking a close look at the payouts and the fact that we're trying to create incentives for people to be at work and to build their sick leave bank, and then not have to just throw it away at the end. And that's a real consideration. But we're also gonna have to optimize our use of dollars to get to where we need to be in terms of achieving the staffing goals that I think that you and the chief largely share. So,
Alrighty, and then Article 20. I mean, we already sent you guys. I think you said you have a. You guys were going to send one over as well, or a counter or whatever. So
which one is that? On
the
staffing?
labor management
Labor
committee.
management.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I need to explain that one a whole lot.
Yeah,
So.
we're gonna give you a counter proposal on the labor management.
Okay. And then that leaves us with Article 11, which is the overtime one. I'm going to let Mr. Rozier kind of walk us through this one.
Let me, trying to get back to it real quick. So on this one, we had a question that kind of popped up while reading through it with the sick leave change is not counting as hours worked. Trying to understand, number one, what the reason for that is, reasoning behind it, kind of like where we at, and then how is that going to be applied in reality? How are we going to utilize that by not counting sick leave in opposed to the way we currently do it by counting sick leave with our Kelly Day cycles?
If you're asking me how the payroll system does that, I couldn't tell you without getting informed.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Pretty much, because under FLSA, we're on a 27-day cycle, 204 hours, et cetera. We get our Kelly days and they're scheduled, our Kelly time, in lieu of overtime. So if we utilize sick leave during that cycle, utilize 24 hours of sick leave, we would lose that 12 hours of accumulated leave, or that Kelly time. If I've already taken my Kelly day during that cycle, am I going to get, how does that, I need to know the
That's a good question.
nuts and bolts of how that
That's a good
works.
question, and I've actually dealt with that before, but it hasn't been recently. But I'll get you an answer to that.
Okay.
And it's peculiar to every pay system, it's different, you know? And, I don't know, what are y'all on, Workday?
For who?
No, we're on Munis.
Payroll
The
system.
policy, oh, yeah, sorry.
Munis.
Yeah, Munis is
Okay.
what they use.
It's
All right,
very
we'll look
cantankerous.
into that and see what the answer is.
And
And it's a good opportunity. I actually welcome the question because, you know, obviously, as I told you to begin with, the reason that we made this adjustment is we're looking for making the, you know, staffing additions, you know, we're talking about, you know, adding somewhere between 50 and 60 positions, you know, during the term of this thing on our staffing proposal. I don't remember how many, yours is 60-something. Your staffing proposal, I think, is 60-something.
3?
positions.
56, but that's not counting administrative positions
Gotcha.
or whatever that may be. So
Okay.
56 in the field.
Okay. And so, I can't tell you, Mr. Hillman can tell us off the top of his head what the number is that goes with that. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's, you know, it's a few $1 million. And so, this is just another one of the things that since FLSA doesn't require compensation for other than actual hours worked, how that works. And so we'll go back and look at how the payroll system is going to work and how that's actually going to be implemented for individual paychecks, because that's a fair question, and we need to know what the answer is.
Yeah, and it's, when you start digging into the way that Kelly days are utilized with additional leave and paired with holidays and things like that, it really starts to get very convoluted very quickly.
Okay.
I think this originally started the way that we operate now, back when Big Chief tablets were a thing, and that's how payroll was done. And trying to make it fit in our system now is pretty challenging. So I think, I'd love to see how that's gonna work.
Okay.
And be willing to work with whoever to
You bet.
make sure it plugs in right.
Make sure it does work. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is have the payroll system create a bunch of grievances.
Yeah.
So. All right.
Very good.
I got you.
Cool. Yeah, I
Let you and
think.
me work on it.
I think other than that, like I said, we gave you all the ones, we're probably ready to, TA, there's 2 we need to look at a little more. But other than that, I think there's, like I said, there's probably 8 there that we're good with.
Okay.
8 to 10 roughly, depending on the 2 I laid out.
All right, so what we're gonna do is, we're gonna take a close look at the ones that you have listed. I've got 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 24, and 25. And, we will be talking to, the city manager. I'll see if we can send you sooner rather than later any adjustment on 17 on the Civil Service Commission, depending on his feedback. Probationary period, Article 15. But the first list that we went through, I believe those are ready to sign, and Janet's just gonna go ahead and prepare a TA version with signature lines on it for those and send them, and if we're on the same page, we'll just sign them and exchange them at the next meeting, but that way that'll be out of the way.
Okay.
And on 15 and 17, if those deals end up to where those are resolved, we will do the same thing. We will send you our other proposals on the ones you have, and we'll be prepared to talk specifically about the staffing article and the funding article provision that I talked about earlier, and the sick leave counter proposal to yours on the 9th.
Okay.
So I actually think that we're building some momentum here, and we'll have an awful lot of the things that, you know, matter on the table at the close of business on the 9th. And what I'm hoping to do, and by the way, Joe, thank you for suggesting that we do a 2-day, because I think it's very timely, because after that, thank you, Brian. Thank you. after the discussion on the 9th, we're gonna pretty much have everything in play and know where everybody is on everything. And so I'm hoping that we can just get done as many things as possible on the 28th and 29th, and actually get pretty close to where we can go. Having 2 days to do that right then, it should be just right.
It worked out well in Wichita Falls, though.
Good.
When we had those 2 days, we wrapped up
That's
the
what I
second
heard.
day.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I mean, they came back and said, we got the deal signed in Wichita Falls, and I said,
Yeah, we
what?
did- Yes, we did a ton of work those 2 days. It was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I really think we're not super far off on a bunch of stuff, just ironing out little details here and there. I mean, we're trying to get this done as quick as we can, just like you guys are.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'll keep up our end of the bargain, and thank you all for doing yours.
Cool.
Anything else for today?
No, if anything comes up, feel free to reach out,
We'll do it.
okay? But we're scheduled for the 9th at 9 a.m., right?
9 a.m.
Okay, great.
9
9
a.m.
a.m. New Mexico time.
Central Time.
Don't tell me that. I'm on New Mexico time.